You're looking for the information that cuts through the noise, right? The stuff that gives you a real handle on what's actually happening.
Exactly.
Today, we're taking that approach to something pretty significant in Indian higher education. The revamped framework for how colleges and universities get assessed, accredited even.
By the National Assessment and Accreditation Council.
Yeah. And
NAAC. We've really dug into the details of this new system, pulled out the key changes, looked at, why they're happening now.
and what it all means.
Yeah, what it means for quality, for recognition of HEIs in India. And honestly, there are some shifts here that might genuinely surprise you, could give you a whole new perspective on how quality is measured.
Okay, interesting. So let's start right at the basics. What exactly is NAAC, and why should we care about its accreditation?
Okay, so NAAC, the National Assessment and Accreditation Council, it was set up way back in 1994.
By the UGC?
By the University Grants Commission, yeah. The UGC is kind of the main body overseeing universities in India. NAAC's core job, its mission, is to assess and accredit higher education institutions, basically. It's about checking and recognizing their quality.
So it's like a quality stamp then, a seal of approval.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah.
Why is that so important for students, maybe employers?
Well, it's vital, really.
Yeah.
It acts as a clear signpost of quality, helps students choose where to study, reassures parents about standards, gives employers confidence in the graduates they hire. Plus, it gives the institutions themselves a benchmark, lets them see how they stack up, where they need to improve.
Right, building trust.
Exactly. Trust across the whole system.
Okay, so NAAC's been around since the 90s. Why the big overhaul now? What's driving these changes?
There are a few key things pushing this. First, there's a real push to align India's system with sort of global best practices in education assessment.
Okay.
Second, it's about continuously trying to raise the quality bar for higher education across the board.
Makes sense.
And third, these changes are really meant to support national goals, especially the National Education Policy 2020. The NEP has this big vision for education in India, and this fits into that.
Right, the NEP 2020 connection. Now, who can actually go through this NAAC process? Is it for every single college or university?
No, not quite everyone. The eligibility criteria are quite specific. It covers a wide range of higher education institutions, HEIs, as long as they're recognized by the UGC.
So that's central, state, private university.
Yep, deemed to be even open universities, also autonomous colleges, and affiliated or constituent colleges.
Okay.
The key thing is they have to have students actually enrolled in degree programs, on a regular basis.
Are there other fundamental requirements, like just to get your foot in the door?
Yeah, a couple more.
Yeah.
They absolutely need statutory recognition from the right regulatory body.
So UGC for universities, AICTE for technical.
Exactly. AICT for technical, BCI for law, NMC for medical, and so on. Plus, they need to have been around for a bit, either operating for at least 6 years, or they need to have graduated at least 2 batches of students.
Okay, established then.
And academically, the HEIs generally need to offer programs in at least 2 different disciplines. For the autonomous, affiliated, and constituent colleges, it's a bit higher, at least 3 programs at the UG, PG, or doctoral level.
Got it. So we're talking about established players. Now let's get into the new system. I heard a committee was involved, led by Dr. Radhakrishnan.
That's right. Dr. K. Radhakrishnan's committee was key in shaping this. Their big focus was creating a system that's, well, simpler, much more driven by technology.
Less manual work.
Precisely. Less manual involvement, aiming for more efficiency overall.
And the result is this 2-stage rollout we're seeing, binary and then maturity-based.
Correct. The NAAC Executive Committee picked up the recommendations in January 2024. They decided, okay, let's do this in 2 phases. First is binary accreditation, kind of a basic check.
Passed.
Essentially, yes. And the second phase, coming later, is the maturity-based graded accreditation. That one looks more at how institutions grow and develop over time.
Okay, let's unpack binary accreditation first. Sounds very clear-cut. Accredited or not accredited?
It is. It kicked in from July 1st, 2024.
Yeah.
And it's a big change from the old ABC grades.
Right.
Now, institutions going through this initial assessment get one of 2 labels, accredited or not accredited. Simple as that. NAAC actually stopped taking new applications under the old grading system after June 30th, 2024.
What about those already in the pipeline?
Oh, they had options. Provisions were made for those already partway through the process.
So what's the actual benchmark? How do you get that accredited stamp in this binary system?
It all comes down to their CGPA, cumulative grade point average.
Okay.
If an institution scores 2.00 CGPA or higher, bang, they're accredited.
Yeah.
That status lasts for 2 years.
And if they're below 2.0?
If they're between 1.50 and, well, just under 2.0, they get provisionally accredited. That's for 1 year.
Provisional, so they get feedback.
Yeah, they get suggestions on what to improve, and they can reapply after sorting those things out.
And below 1.50?
Below 1.50 CGPA, it's not accredited. They have to wait at least 6 months before they can try again.
What about institutions that already had, say, an A grade under the old system?
Good question. They keep their existing grade until it expires naturally. After that, starting from January 2025, they can apply for the next stage, the maturity-based graded accreditation.
Right. Now, one thing I've heard mentioned, does this binary approach maybe reduce the incentive to really strive for excellence if it's just accredited versus not?
That is a potential concern some people have raised, yeah. Unlike the old A, B, C grades, there isn't that immediate distinction within the accredited category in this first phase.
Yeah.
It's something to watch, how it impacts that drive for continuous improvement beyond just meeting the threshold.
Interesting point. Okay, let's move to phase 2 then. Maturity-based graded accreditation sounds like it looks at the bigger picture, the long game.
It really does. This is slated for implementation around December 2024. The whole idea is to look at an institution's journey, its development path.
How so?
It benchmarks institutions against different stages of growth, acknowledging that they start somewhere, develop, and maybe eventually reach global excellence. It's not just a snapshot. It's recognition of growth and kind of a roadmap for where to go next.
So what are these stages, these levels of maturity?
There are 5 levels defined. Level 1 is for emerging institutions, those just starting out, finding their feet.
Okay.
Level 2 is developing institutions. Level 3, establishing institutions. Then level 4 recognizes advanced institutions.
And reaching those levels means something specific.
Yes. Achieving levels 1 through 4 gets you recognized as an institution of national excellence.
National excellence and level 5.
Level 5 is the top tier. Institutions of global excellence for multidisciplinary research and education. That's for institutions hitting really high standards in research and teaching across different fields.
Wow, okay. That paints a much clearer path for progression. Now, this all relies heavily on data submitted by the institutions, right? How is NAAC making sure that data is accurate, trustworthy? You mentioned a platform.
Yeah, the One Nation, One Data platform. This is absolutely critical for ensuring trust and transparency.
How does it work?
The idea is it's a central system. It collects institutional data and crucially cross-verifies it, try to minimize errors or, any funny business. There's also talk of involving stakeholders in validating some data, which could make it even more robust.
So the core principles are trust and data, less focus on site visits.
That seems to be the direction. Trust and data-driven, with potentially fewer, maybe more targeted verification visits. But, and this is important, they've made it clear there will be heavy penalties for submitting wrong data.
Right. Accuracy is non-negotiable. Okay, briefly then, what does the overall accreditation process look like now, the steps involved?
The main stages look pretty familiar, actually. You've got registration first, then submitting the IQA, that's the institutional information for quality assessment.
Okay.
Then comes the big one, the SSR, the self-study report. That's the institution's detailed self-assessment. There's also the Student Satisfaction Survey, the SSS.
Still got the student voice in there.
Definitely. And depending on the accreditation stage, there might be a peer team visit, a PTV. And finally, NAAC makes its decision and announces the outcome.
Got it. So, familiar steps, but what are they actually measuring now? The old system had its attributes, but I hear there are 10 foundational metrics now.
Yes, that's the new structure. 10 foundational metrics grouped into 3 buckets: input, process, and output.
Input, process, output. Can you break that down?
Sure. Input metrics look at the basic resources the institution has. Think faculty qualifications, infrastructure, curriculum framework, finances.
The building blocks.
Exactly. Process metrics examine how the institution uses those resources day to day. Teaching methods, admin processes, research initiatives, student interactions. How things actually work.
Right.
And output metrics measure the tangible results, what comes out at the end. Student achievements, research impact, employability, societal contribution.
Okay, that input, process, output distinction helps. Let's dive into some specifics. Curricular aspects is now curriculum design, and it's got a hefty 25% weight under input. What are they looking for there?
A lot, actually. Curriculum design is crucial. They want the outcome-based curricula designed with specific student learning goals in mind.
Makes sense.
They'll look at stakeholder involvement students, faculty, industry, alumni, and shaping it. Flexibility is huge. Things like multiple entry-exit points, electives, twinning programs, interdisciplinary options, credit transfers.
So lots of pathways.
Yeah. And a strong practical and industry-focused field projects, internships, partnerships. Is it aligned with the National Skills Qualification Framework, the NSQF? Does it use online and blended learning effectively, maybe using SWAM?
Okay.
Is the curriculum reviewed regularly? And importantly, is the Indian Knowledge System, IKS, integrated through courses, research, preservation efforts?
That's comprehensive for just one metric. Okay, next. Teaching, learning, and evaluation becomes faculty resources. 6% input. What's the focus?
This is about the people, the faculty.
Yeah.
Is recruitment transparent and fair? Do they follow pay norms? Is there diversity in the faculty? What about faculty development programs like Malvia Mission, RIPI? And critically, can the institution retain its faculty?
It's faculty retention. Interesting. Okay. Research, innovations, and extension shifts to infrastructure. Also 6% input. So research resources are now seen as foundational infrastructure.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It covers physical stuff, classrooms, labs, sports facilities, but also learning resources spending on books, digital resources, IT infrastructure, internet, software, LMS.
Right.
Research resources like e-journals, databases, plagiarism software. Are facilities Devianjan friendly? Or what about innovation resources, tinkering labs, incubators?
Gotcha. And infrastructure and learning resources is now financial resources and management. Another 6% input, underscoring financial stability.
Absolutely. This looks at income, capital income like grants, revenue income like fees, expenditure capital on buildings, revenue on salaries. What are their strategies for long-term sustainability, like corpus funds? And are their financial controls solid? Audits, risk management.
Okay, that covers the input side. Moving to process. Student support and progression is now learning and teaching, 7% weightage. How's the focus different?
If faculty resources was the input, learning and teaching is the process of education delivery. What teaching methods are used? Are there good internship opportunities? How are students assessed different methods? Is there a good system for academic grievances? How do they cater to diverse student needs, like remedial teaching? How good is their learning management system? And how strong are the links with industry for learning?
Right, the actual doing of teaching. Now, governance, leadership, and management becomes extended curricular engagements at 6% process. That's an interesting shift, focusing on stuff outside the formal curriculum.
It is. It highlights that whole well-rounded experience idea. Are there active technical clubs, cultural clubs, festivals, hackathons? What about mental health support clubs, sports activities, community engagement, like under Unabharth Abhiyan social responsibility stuff?
So the whole student life aspect.
Pretty much. Then institutional values and best practices turns into governance and administration, 8% process. So how the place is run is still key, definitely. Are they complying with rules? Do they have a clear institutional development plan, vision, mission, IDP? Are they using e-governance effectively? What about student and employee welfare? How good are their grievance systems, anti-sexual harassment, anti-ragging?
The operational backbone.
Yeah, and the internal quality assurance system, the IQAC. Effective leadership, collaborations with other universities, all that internal machinery.
Okay, now for the output category. The old quantitative and qualitative metrics seem to be grouped under student outcomes. 8% output weightage. What results are measured here?
This is all about graduate success. Placement rates, median salaries for those placed. How many go on to higher studies? How many start their own businesses?
Entrepreneurship, okay.
Percentage qualifying in competitive exams. Any award students win academic or extracurricular. Enrollment ratio, graduation rate, and importantly, feedback from current students and alumni surveys on their experience.
Measuring the end product, basically. What about research output? Research, innovation, and extension also has an output part. Research and innovation outcomes, 8%.
Right. Here they're measuring research productivity and impact. How many quality publications in index journals? Are they checking for plagiarism? How many PhDs awarded? Research fellowships? How many patents or IPRs generated? And what about research collaborations? Interdisciplinary, interuniversity, with industry, community-based.
Got it. Measuring the impact. Finally, a new output category, sustainability outcomes at 5%. Reflects that growing focus on social and environmental responsibility.
Absolutely. This looks the institution's commitment beyond just academics. Community work through NSSNCC, waste and water management, rainwater harvesting, recycling, efforts towards net zero emissions, solar, wind power.
Green initiatives?
Yep, green audits, pollution monitoring, and collaborations with industry or NGOs on sustainability projects, social service programs.
And there was also something about extra weightage, uniqueness, situatedness, and discipline-specific metrics.
Yes, crucial additions for nuance. The uniqueness situatedness part 15% weightage across process and outcome lets institutions highlight what makes them special, things specific to their context or mission that might not fit neatly elsewhere.
So room for individuality.
Exactly. And the discipline-specific metrics acknowledge that quality looks different in engineering versus, say, humanities. So some metrics will be tailored to the specific field.
Okay, this is clearly a massive shift, a whole new way of looking at quality. For the colleges and universities listening, what are the key practical steps? How should they adapt?
Good question. I'd break it down into maybe 6 key areas. First, obviously, aim high within the maturity-based graded accreditation system. That means realistically assessing where they are now, identifying strengths and weaknesses based on these new metrics, and building a clear roadmap for improvement.
Okay, aim for MBGA. What else?
Second, optimize their performance in the NIRF rankings. That often aligns focus on research, improve placements, invest in inclusivity, infrastructure.
The NIRF and NAAC alignment. Got it.
Third, strengthen governance and leadership. Transparent processes, train leaders, really engage stakeholders. Fourth, get ready for more continuous monitoring, set up good internal systems, do regular self-checks, build a culture of accurate reporting.
Be prepared for ongoing scrutiny.
Fifth, financial and infrastructure readiness. Build that corpus fund, upgrade facilities, plan for sustainability. It's an input metric, remember.
Right.
And finally, number 6, really focus on societal impact and community engagement. Run outreach programs, get students involved, and crucially, track and showcase the positive impact you're having. That's an output metric now, too.
Okay, 6 key areas. So to wrap this up, we're seeing a huge shift. More transparency, data-driven, staged accreditation, moving from simple grades to this binary start, then the maturity levels.
Exactly. It's all aimed at lifting the quality and hopefully the global standing of Indian higher education. And that matters for you, the listener. It affects the value of degrees, choices, opportunities, the whole landscape.
It really does. So on that note, something for you to think about. How might these big changes in how institutions are rated affect the future value, the perception of degrees from India? And how might this new focus on different aspects of quality shape your own choices about learning or your career path?
Definitely food for thought. We encourage you to dig deeper into any parts of this new NAAC framework that caught your attention.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.